So we're looking at somebody that is diving, and because of gravity, the relationship between his height and the time in seconds after he dives is quadratic, obviously, right? You dive, you go up in the air, and you come down. So he reached a maximum height of 11.225 meters after 0.5 seconds, and he started at a platform that was 10 meters high. I want you guys to draw a diagram right now. Just draw a little sketch of what this would look like. On the x-axis would be what? Time in seconds. And on the y-axis would be height in meters. So what could you fill in here? You know that he started his dive 10 meters high up, and you know that his maximum height was that after 0.5 seconds. So can you draw a sketch and label it? He starts 10 meters, and then he dives, right? He ends up in the water. What other point on the parabola do you know? We know the vertex, yes, because it says it's a maximum height. What is the coordinate of the vertex? Nope. 0.5. 11.225. So you know H and K, right? You know where the vertex is. And you know what? What is this point? The y-intercept, which is 0, 10. So you know a coordinate. And obviously the parabola is going to look something like this. What are we trying to find? What's the question? How long was he above the water? So we need to know, when is he above the water? From here to here, he's above the water. So we need to know the length of time he was above the water, right? He was above the water. He starts at 0 seconds, and then we have to figure out how many seconds passed until he hit the water. So we have to find the x-intercept. But to find an x-intercept, you have to have the equation of the quadratic relation. You have x and y and h and k. Can you come up with an equation? What do you need to find? A, right? This goes back to what we did. You know h, k, x, and y. We need to figure out a. And if we figure out a, what form are you going to write this in? Because you know the vertex, what form would you write this in? What is vertex form?
Y equals bracket
X minus.
A plus H.
Okay, so can you solve for a? Why do we need to solve for a? We can't find the x-intercept if we don't have an equation. You can't find the roots of the quadratic relation unless you have the equation of it. Once you find the roots, once you find a, you can come up with the equation, and then we're going to have to solve for x, right? So h is 0.5, k is 11.225, x is 0, y is 10, and we need to figure out a. We need to figure out this. How long was he above the water after he dove? We have an equation now. We have to figure out how many seconds. So the x-intercept, you're going to get two answers, right? You're going to get a negative x-intercept and a positive x-intercept. Which is the answer? Can you have a negative amount of time? It's going to be this. So what do you want to do to solve for, what do you want to do to find the roots of the equation?
Quadratic.
And his maximum height was at 0.5 seconds. Is it reasonable to say that he was above the water for 2 seconds?
Yes.
Yes. So when you're simplifying this, make sure you have this in brackets. Look here. It's negative 0.5 squared. What's a negative times a negative? What's negative 0.5 times negative 0.5? Positive 0.25a. Make sure you follow BEDMAS. Okay, right? So we have to rearrange this. So this positive becomes negative to get rid of it. 0.25a. Divide everything by 0.25 and simplify. A is equal to negative 4.9. Raise your hand if you got that. So what is the equation in vertex form? Y equals?
Negative 4.9.
Okay, we didn't answer the question though. The question said what?
Oh, sure.
To find the x-intercepts, what does y have to be equal to? 0, right? So rewrite this to make y equal to 0. Okay? If y is 0, that x value is the x-intercept, right? So let's rearrange this equation to solve for x. I have positive 11.225. What can I do with that? I'm trying to isolate x.
Bring it to the others.
Okay, so it becomes negative. I have negative 4.9, and then I multiply that by x minus 0.5 squared.
Negative.
If I divide this by negative 4.9, I'm slowly getting to isolate my variable, right? So what do I have to do to this side?
Negative 4.
Divide by negative 4.9. And I'm just left with x minus 0.5 squared on the right side. Negative divided by negative is a positive. What's 11.225 divided by 4.9? So 2.29, right? We're good so far? Remember, when you're trying to isolate a variable, you're doing the opposite operation. Opposite of positive was negative. Opposite of multiplication was division. What's the opposite of squaring a number?
Square root.
Square root. So if I do square root, that's actually getting rid of the squared. You're undoing the operation, right? So what's the square root of 2.29? Square root of 2.29 is what?
1.51.
Okay, so the square root of 2.29 is positive 1.51 and negative 1.51, right? Remember, a square root always has two answers. So positive 1.51 is equal to x minus 0.5, and negative 1.51 is equal to x minus 0.5, right? Can you solve for x?
Yeah.
So 1.51, what's the opposite of take away 0.5? Plus 0.5 equals x, and negative 1.51 plus 0.5 equals x. Remember, you're going to have one positive and one negative. What's 1.51 plus 0.5?
2.0.
2,
Or 2.
approximately.
Yeah.
And what's this intercept?
1.
Approximately negative
No,
1.
it isn't.
Go back to your diagram. How many seconds, what was the question? How many seconds was she above the water for after she dove? 2 seconds. You can't say that he was above the water for a negative amount of seconds, but if you were to graph it, you would have a negative and a positive intercept, right?